attendees, we had close to 30 folks register, and I just sent a reminder, so you might be getting that in your emails as well, but just reminding folks that we are starting now. So come on in and join us at the local Hive, and so glad you could make it, Janice. Yes, absolutely. So thanks for putting that in the chat. Yeah. Well, we'll do some intros here in a second. I'm Jennifer Rubenstein. I have been on the board of Amoeba for a long time, have recently rolled off, but glad to still be involved. And my kind of fellow co-host here is Rebecca Melanson, and she'll introduce herself here in just a moment, but she is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here for these calls, and glad to be working with her on this. So we've known each other a long time. It's glad to have a project together,
Indeed.
I think a lot of us know, who Amoeba is, the American Independent Business Alliance, because you're obviously on the newsletter if you've heard about this call or you've been forwarded the email. We're having these really just to help us stay connected, especially during the pandemic, but in general, we know that it's important for our colleagues to be able to call on each other easily and kind of, know what we're up to a little bit, kind of have an idea. It's so much easier to connect with someone than to reinvent the wheel ourselves. It's also great to get inspiration from other people who are doing the very, very similar work, exactly the same work as we are, because you don't usually have that right in your town. So it's something where we need to reach out across the country to do that. It is also one of the many benefits of being an Amoeba member. So if you're not a member yet, I'd certainly encourage you to look into it, and we're happy to chat with you about that as well. We rotate 3 different types of calls for these local leaders. So it's always the second Thursday of the month. We usually have a nuts and bolts session, which is kind of a how-to. Our next one coming up on that is about hybrid events and how to do kind of in person and online at the same time. Another type is what's going on with Amoeba. So just updates about what's going on as an overall organization, so we can all feel like we're part of the process and can take full advantage of our membership and what's going on there. And then something that we like to call the Hive, the idea being that we all come together and then we go back out and pollinate, our local communities with ideas, et cetera. And this is the least formal of the sessions. I kind of liken it to a cocktail hour, at the end of a conference, where you're just hanging out, shooting the breeze, catching up with each other, that sort of thing. So today we kind of picked a topic of how each of us are looking to come out of the pandemic. What are the positives? What are the challenges? How are you and your organization planning for the future when it is so hard to plan? We don't have to stick to that topic exactly, but it is what can inspire us, to get going. So what we'll do is we'll do a quick round of introductions of everyone, just so everybody can give their name and their position and what organization you're with, and where you are as well, if it's not obvious from your name. And then we can kind of go into, and once we've all had a time, and then maybe just super fast, like a recent success or something that you may want to talk about on the call today, just like a 1-sentence summary type of thing. And hopefully after we've all gone and done our intros, we might detect a theme, we may not, but we can kind of decide how we're going to guide our discussion today. So let's see, I'm going to look on my cheat sheet here and see anything else that I need to do. I don't think so. So I'm sorry.
I think you covered it. That was great.
Awesome. Well, I've already introduced myself, Jennifer Rubenstein. I'm with the Louisville Independent Business Alliance. I think I may not have mentioned that. I'm the director. We have about 850 members. We've been around since 2005, so we're old. And I guess a couple of things that I wanted to kind of mention is we are, and I took a note here. Sorry, I'm looking on my computer here. As far as a good thing, I'm super happy that we are not financially in the toilet right now. We actually have a little nest egg thanks to that one-time benefit of PPP and our EIDL grant. And we also had a raffle that happened to be timed for 2020 that was also a one-time thing. So that really saved our bacon. But the tough thing is it's just so hard to plan. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to the table today, and want to hear from everybody else about what you guys have going on too. So Why don't I call on Rebecca just to go ahead and introduce herself, or do you want to wrap up the introductions?
No, I'll go ahead and then we can
Okay,
talk to
sure.
everybody.
And then
I'm Rebecca Melançon, and I'm the co-founder and director of policy and research at the Local Business Institute, a newly founded organization here in Austin, Texas. But I was a co-founder and executive director of the Austin Independent Business Alliance for 20 years. And now I serve on the Amoeba board, which I'm thrilled to be involved with. So it's a lot of fun and such a great group and be contributing. What am I working on? Oh my gosh, I have been writing grants for about the last 3 months, just writing grants. And looks like I lost y'all.
Huh?
Did I?
No,
Okay.
we're here.
Like froze to me. Okay.
We're here.
Some of those grants
Just
have
wrapped.
been, okay. Some of those grants have been for my own organization. Some of them have been for Amoeba, and some of them are joint projects. But I like to think that I'm getting better at it.
Awesome.
Federal grants are big deals, so we're learning.
Yes. Well, let's see. How about Amanda? Let's hear from you. And Vicki and Dean, the folks that just joined us, we're just doing a quick introduction with just a quick summary of maybe, a highlight or a challenge that you want to maybe talk about today, having to do with coming out of the pandemic or not. So, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda Stickle. First time coming to a meeting. I'm with Watertown First in Watertown, New York. I'm currently the interim executive director. The pandemic has definitely been a struggle for our board. We've kind of dwindled. People have disappeared and had to move away and all sorts of things. Yep. So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. Normally we do these really large block parties in the summer. Obviously we can't do them again this year quite yet. So we've just been trying to do something small and spread out. And to help with our board member situation, we've developed committees and brought people on. And we are hoping that they'll enjoy working with us and our mission and want to come on board with us and help throughout the year.
That's a good strategy. Awesome. Well, thanks. Congrats on your first time coming, Amanda. We're really glad to see you. I'm going to call on Janice next, and she's also a first timer here. And
hey, everybody. I am the owner of my own company that I started about 4 years ago. It's called Right Mind Creative. And what I do is I fill a niche for entrepreneurs and small business owners who can't afford large branding firms. I'm the affordable one that starts them off. And then my goal is if they want to get so big that I'm too small for them. That's how I started my business. And you guys are going to be, the pandemic, it did not affect me. I had 1 month off in March of last year, March or April of last year, I think it was, where, things were slow, but picked right back up. So I've been working nonstop since then, and I'm actually looking to grow my team. So it's been an exciting time for me. In addition, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer last year, so I am spreading the word. I worked with the volunteered right away. As soon as I was well enough out of the hospital, I volunteered with the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition, and they gladly accepted me, and I am now out and about speaking about ovarian cancer. It's a disease that affects 1 in 78 persons born with ovaries every year. We are taught about it, and it does not show in pap smears. So I encourage all of you who know someone born with ovaries or have been born with ovaries yourself, please learn all you can. Thank you.
thank you, Janice. Appreciate that. Yeah, and so great to turn that into spreading the awareness. Well, Kathleen, let's hear from you.
Hi all, Kathleen Rourke. I'm from the Local First West Michigan organization here. We have been Yeah, I think a lot of the updates really resonate with me. What you shared earlier, Jennifer, about, being in the black, that's awesome. We are so stoked to report that here. We were monitoring our renewal cycle closely and just seeing what this year was going to look like, where we would need to cut back if necessary, and are thrilled that we're able this year to actually do a little bit more in some different areas. So really highlighting and honing in on our virtual content and our virtual campaigns, making those robust for the remainder of whatever this pandemic time looks like, but also what it can look like through the years to come as we just hone down on some of these and make them annual components of our work. And then, adding a bit to our team too. So we've been a small team for a while, as I'm sure many buy locals are. And so excited to bring on some part-time support to help with some administrative pieces and allow us to be thinking about some more strategic partnerships and growth initiatives. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And as far as what it looks like to come out of this kind of pandemic year, I think I'm on the same page as a lot of you, figuring out what that looks like or what future events look like. They're hard to plan for. We're unsure. We're actually just starting to think about bringing our monthly coffee hour series back in person, highlighting our local parks around the area. So thinking about some of those, but yeah, it feels like a big unknown yet. So I'm eager to hear what some unique things are as far as happening in other people's communities. So yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it. Let's see, Vicki, I think you're next.
Yes, Vicki Valdez. I'm with the Local Business Institute. And I got to tell you, during the pandemic, there was a lot of challenges and we had to learn a lot of things with technology and just new way of business. But I'm with you guys, Kathleen and Amanda, it's events. What do they look like? What are people comfortable with? And I've been invited to some I've hesitated to attend, but I know I'm gonna have to get comfortable and let's see what the future brings. But thank you.
So are you in Austin with Rebecca then as well?
I am, yes.
Okay, I knew you worked together, but these days you really don't have to live in the same city to be business partners. So
well, actually, you are so correct. I'm in Austin today, but next week I will be in Michigan. Actually, I'll be in Detroit.
Well, there you go. There you go. Jennifer Martin, let's hear from you.
Hey everyone, thanks for letting me join today. I'm kind of multitasking here as I listen to enjoy over in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we are actually actively planning events here. We have a indoor roller skating rink pop-up event happening next weekend. We did one almost a month ago now in the Raleigh Convention Center in the basement there and had 6 of the 11 sessions completely sell out. So we're doing that event again. This time we are actually buying a lot of roller skates ourselves. So I'm sitting here bidding on auctions as we're talking, trying to, as it closes here in a few minutes. But we're excited to be, I think we are in a really good position. We opened a new building this year. It'd be a year in July. We found a space, we upfit it and redid it and modeled it out. We have 2 tenants that we have space for to kind of do affordable office space. And so we're hopefully going to be looking at our second building project here in the next 6 months. And so working on that. And then again, in addition to the roller skating event, a month from now, we are doing another craft beer festival, a very different concept. It's a one price, pay what you flat fee, get a cup and go sample, heavy emphasis on retail vendor shopping. I'm doing that at our state fairgrounds. And then we will bring back our actual big beer festival here in September. So we did not apply for any type of PPP or anything like that. So we've been very fortunate that we've been very smart and have continued to do things just pop-up style and drive-through events. So that's who we are and where we're at.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Glad you can be here. Let's see, Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I have been with Cambridge Local First since 2005, almost since its founding, and sat on the board and was president and been treasurer. I am not the executive director. We're very lucky to have gotten an amazing, wonderfully efficient, and I've worked with every one of the executive directors in the past 16 years. Theo Sciatis does it all, and she's now running for city council, which is going to complicate things. But she started in the fall of 2019, so she was just beginning to hit her stride when the pandemic hit, and recognized immediately, as we all did, in February. Well, I'm in the hospitality business. I've owned and operated a hotel in Cambridge near Harvard Square for the last almost 31 years. At the point that this happened, I owned 3, and now I'm back to owning only 2. Big, long, sad stories. Business, hospitality was not kind to us among many other business categories. We're now in our first month. I'll just do a little tangent here on my business of having to make it on our own. And we are looking to possibly cover costs with revenues this month for the first time in 16 months. We have gone through our second PPP loan. I filed for forgiveness, and I feel like I've learned a lot of things I'll never have to do again. I hope I'll never have to do them again. But I did learn a lot about the real estate business, about the hospitality business, about the traveling public. I've been able to keep most of my employees partially employed, and they are wanting to come back when they can. Everything has shifted enormously, and we're looking forward to better times, but this is the first month when I've actually been seriously hopeful that we'll get there. So with Cambridge Local First, I became more involved or more actively participating in it when I was able to finally, maybe in April or May, around this time last year, because it was pretty clear businesses were falling apart, needed all kinds of help. The orientation from marketing and maybe business improvement really became much more programmatic, help with business continuation plans and how to apply for a PPP and how to get your COVID protective equipment and how to deal with the Department of Unemployment Insurance. And all of these, all these businesses face the same kinds of issues, and we were all working to help each other get through. And now we've got a lot of different programs. The city is still going through rezoning. They're expanding their bicycle lanes with outdoor dining happening and expanding bicycle lanes. There's a huge space crunch. Cambridge is a small, dense city. So there's a lot going on with regard to government affairs. I sit on the government affairs committee. They're trying to start a new compost route for business to include businesses and residents together. There's rezoning happening, and that has been long in the works since before the pandemic. So we're trying to respond to that and try to get more mixed use zoning, and to get zoning that would somehow at least protect, if not support, locally owned businesses, rather than, have these 10,000 square foot spaces that are only good for a Kmart. I don't even know that's big enough for a Kmart. I have no idea. But anyway, there's a lot going on in all of the spheres of it. So marketing is not even a focus anymore. And it used to be the value proposition for Cambridge Local First. And we used to get most of our revenues from membership dues. Well, there are still some members paying. Many have gone out of business. Many cannot afford. They still want to participate. So we have a different way of looking at who our members are. And we're looking at the whole organization kind of in a new light. We have a new president who's been a long time. She's second generation restaurant owner in Harvard Square. Very, very no nonsense businesswoman. I really like her a lot. But she's looking at this with a fresh pair of eyes and seeing that our committees are not fully functioning. They're changing their mission. Everything is shifting. There's a lot of activity. There's a lot of much better organization in some ways, but the way we work, we're not doing customer service business improvement seminars or business continuation business. We're doing more real support for businesses to, one of the things I started that I was kind of selfish, I lost one of my businesses. I wanted to do a kind of commemoration of business. We called it Business Lives Well Lived. And that was talking to the owners of businesses that had to close, and I said, let's partner with the Cambridge Historical Society, which collects the stories of Cambridge. And then a guy who used to work there, got back to me and he said, you really should do a kind of a second line parade with with all these business owners and their happy customers marching down Massachusetts Avenue and saying, we were here and now we're gone. And we're so sorry that we couldn't make it through the pandemic. And that hasn't happened yet, but it would be a really good celebration for employees and customers and owners to say, we were here and we wish we could be here again. Now we're turning our attention more to how our businesses are surviving and how the whole marketplace has changed, and the government support, for at least for the next while, is going to be significantly different. And how can we, there are lots of structures, like the zoning structure, like the Department of Unemployment Assistance, all of these different systems that we used in one way, we really need to rethink. And I'm seeing this as a real opportunity for that. And
definitely a lot of pivoting.
We've got a lot more interns.
Pivoting coming out of the pandemic, or pivoting going into the pandemic. Now we're pivoting coming out of the pandemic, and the whole shebang. Well, I'm going to call on Paul next. I think we just want to hear where you're from, Paul, and give us a quick, maybe what you want to get out of this call, what you want to talk about your own organization. We're going to open it up to a more general discussion too, but right now we just want to introduce everybody and get a little sense of what we're looking for.
I'm in Cincinnati area. I retired from corporate world, 36 years in IT, and got bored. So last year, right at the start of the pandemic, although before I realized the pandemic had started, I launched a small business to do website development, e-commerce sites, that type thing. So it's been an interesting year, and I've had to pivot. But little by little, I've heard things at Amoeba, and basically am getting acquainted, because I'm not originally from the Cincinnati area. So I'm getting a little acquainted with your organization, and to just see where I might be able to fit in, do some good.
Well, I will say our Amoeba's headquarters are in Cincinnati. Our Derek Peoples is located there, our director. So I don't know if you've connected with him yet, but definitely happy to get you guys connected.
No, I haven't. I waited till I got my second shot. So.
Oh yeah, sure. Sure.
But I have gotten it, so I will be getting in touch with him.
Awesome.
Good.
We're happy to facilitate that too if you need.
I assume it's okay my crashing the meeting, because I got an invitation. So
yes. Well, we did. We have sent it out to all of Amoeba wide, because we didn't want to miss anyone who's interested in the local movement. And even if there is not currently a local organization in your locality, you can start one, or you can look at ways to kind of organize it in some shape or fashion. So that is kind of one of the ironies of Cincinnati, is while we're headquartered there, is that there's not really an active buy local organization there. There was at one time funded by the university, but after the funding went away, that has changed. So yeah, so let me see. Let's introduce a couple more people here, and then we'll chat some more. Dean and Bruce, we're just kind of doing introduction, saying where we're from, if we're affiliated with a local organization, a buy local organization, and just a little bit about what you want to get out of the call today. So Dean, let's hear from you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you. I'm here in Chicago. Have started an organization and group working on supporting the shop local movement. We don't have a local first here effort, but in Chicago, we're really building out online marketplaces for communities to be able to activate the shop small, shop local ecosystem, so communities can be able to do community-driven commerce, as well as be able to keep dollars in their local community here. So somebody invited me to the Amoeba call a couple months ago, and have participated ever since, and really enjoy meeting others, and look forward to connecting with the local first community, and hopefully be able to start one here in Chicago at some point.
Absolutely. I know there was a local organization in Chicago. I used to get their emails, but it's been a few years, and I'm not sure if they're still around, to tell you the truth.
I'll follow up. Maybe we can connect on that.
Yeah, I feel like there's got to be some way I can find out who that was.
Okay. Awesome.
Great. Wait a second. We had Dean. No, we have Dean, and Bruce was on here, and now Bruce is off, I think. So hopefully he'll come back and we can get an introduction then. So, okay. So Kathleen is asking, does Andersonville have a buy local? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
We just did something with them to support their restaurant week, and I can drop it in the box. That's the idea, is to amplify the shop local on one marketplace, to be able to do multiple merchants on one checkout experience. So yeah, we actually started working with them, and happy to send you the link around.
Well, and I'll add to that just a little bit, just to update Rebecca as well while we're on this call, that since we had our call on local marketplaces, I'm now partnering with another nonprofit. Hopefully, it's a statewide organization here in Kentucky so we're shifting the way we do our online marketplace, but we still have that goal of getting multiple transactions or multiple vendors on one transaction, etc. So
yeah, I'd be happy to connect with that with you as well, to see if I can be of any help.
Sure. Awesome. So yeah, let's see. What do you think, Rebecca? You've been kind of taking notes. Should we guide it any one particular way?
I've been taking notes because I'm the one who writes the follow-up email that lets everybody know ideas that came from these conversations and kind of what we talked about. So if my head is looking down and all you see is the top of my head, I'm taking good notes. I would love to hear from y'all about, many of you have mentioned things are starting to come out, but everybody's a little unsure. And some of you have talked about beginning to plan your first events. And I know at Libby, which is what we call the Local Business Institute, LBI, we love that it has a woman's name. We are planning an event in June. That's an in-person event, and we're just going to see how it goes. So I'm kind of anxious to see our next local leaders roundtable call about how to do hybrid events. But have any of y'all actually done an in-person event, or what's the temperature in your cities?
Jennifer Martin's been doing lots of in-person events with the skating, etc. So
yeah, we again, the skating event was very popular and very well received. We were allowed to have, at the time, we were allowed to have 300 people per session, and North Carolina has still been very restrictive than most other states on our mandates. And we have had a mask mandate in place the entire time. And we had to do temperature checks, all the above. We were indoor capacity size restrictions still exist here. And so we were able to, overwhelmingly in 8 days, we planned the event, pulled it off, and almost sold out. So wow. If there is a desire for people to come back and to do things, which prompted us to do the second event, it's just getting the word out, and it already is selling hands over fist over our beer festival that we're planning. I think it's, go ahead.
Were people masked at your events?
Mm-hmm. They had to be, yeah. Per the requirement of the North Carolina governor or state mandate and the convention center, you do have to wear a mask upon entry. You do have to have your temperature check taken. If for any reason there was any request for a refund, we processed it. We didn't deal with it. We just did it. The good news is that when we processed the refund, there were so many people online waiting, that ticket would sell immediately as soon as it went back online.
Well, it seems like from your experience, there's just this pent-up demand for us to all see one another.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I don't think it's just localized to Carolina because we have been restrictive. I do think it's a nationwide thing that we're finding.
Right.
We have friends in the music industry with Live Nation, and I don't know if you guys have watched Live Nation stock. Live Nation stock was selling at $90 some a share because people have been so they know that it's going to come back and that people are wanting to. We just talked to our outdoor music venue in town here yesterday. We're getting some incredible acts this summer, like Chris Stapleton, Zach Brown Band, Luke Combs, just some really big names, because those big names have the ability to travel and sell out a venue. And so you're going to see cities across the country that are going to get those really top acts this summer, and they will sell out because people want to come back. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm curious too. That's amazing, and just such a wonderful sort of guiding light to say, gives the rest of us permission almost to say, yes, go have an event and see how it goes.
I mean, it can be done. Now, our beer festival that we're doing, it's, beer vendors, music, food trucks, all the above. Again, depending on what the word is the governor is saying that he is looking at lifting the mask and capacity limits come June 1st. Here in Carolina, I don't know what your climate is like in other places, but here, once the weather is nice, there's already a pent up demand for people to want to get outside. And now here we're going to hold this festival in an inside venue. So there is a little bit of that, but again, we're going to have some indoor outdoor components with it. June, it's usually a little bit hot here. And so we're hopeful that, come that mask mandate, that'll be up to people's comfort level. I think if it is not in place, I have a feeling we can, I guess, but it's on state fairgrounds property. So we're going to follow the governor's mandate on that. So if the mandate is lifted, you do it at your comfort level. If you still want to wear one, you still wear one. Obviously, when you're eating and drinking, you won't have one on there, but we'll follow that procedure and process and have that in place. We'll just have more hand sanitizing stations. We have plenty of bathrooms, things like that we'll have in place for that event. And then again, if anyone for any reason will encourage, if you're not feeling well, don't come. And I don't care if you're making up an excuse why you don't want to come. If you're sick, we're going to refund you.
That's a great policy. So I see, Janice, you've commented that y'all have had a good experience as well.
Yes, I was working from my home and, like dark in the basement and then I was joking. And after my diagnosis last year, I really wanted to get out. So I moved my office from my home into a small town called Las Vegas, New Mexico. No gambling here, guys, sorry. But I joined the Las Vegas First Independence Business Alliance right away. And I'm active in that organization. And each week they have a Fridays Al Fresco event where we have live music or some other type of thing, like a comedian or somebody. And it's an outdoor event. And it was huge. The crowd was great. Everyone was dispersed. People wore masks as they came up near each other. And everyone was just so happy. It was a really good event. New Mexico, we just got out of some severe restrictions. We've just been lifted. As you may have heard, the Navajo Nation was severely impacted by COVID. So I'm not sure what they're going to do this year coming up, but they're welcome. Everyone's welcome to come out with masks on and be safe. And I think there's a lot of pent up, like we were saying, a lot of people want to get out no matter what it is. So the response was fantastic.
That's awesome. Does anybody have a concern about an event that draws too many people?
We are, we're planning our buy local fair for August, and it can draw 5,000 to 7,000 people. But because we're doing it in August, usually we have it in May. We're going to shorten it to 4 hours because it's hot in Louisville in August. But we also noticed that all the other events were pushed into September and October, which is great. But we like having less competition, and we know that the appetite is there as well for people to come out. August is a little further down the road, but to plan the event of that size, we just need a little bit of runway. And it also depended on the Water Tower Park where we hold it. They are gracious enough to comp the rental. And so we had to work with their schedule as well. So, but I think that we will sell parking in advance for the first time. And what I like about that idea, and I hope that it will remain, honestly, is because it helps rainproof our event a bit. Even if we do have terrible weather, and if we reschedule, then we can, still, have parking be good for the next time. But if we do have to cancel early, or, it doesn't last as long or whatever, people kind of understand it's rain or shine, and, if they choose not to come, and that way attendance, so we'll offer a little discount for parking if you do it in advance. So parking and beer sales are our two big components for those two. So, and then we're going to have a kickoff. We just moved into a new office. So July will be our first members event in person. But I don't know about y'all, but committee meetings, I don't think they can just stay on Zoom. I really could care less. I mean, maybe we'll do every other committee meeting or something, but since I have to be on every dang committee, I get tired of running around town going to committee meetings. I'm happy to see people and socialize, but I just Meetings, I'm fine with Zoom. But we'll see how that goes. Some committees may want to, meet in person,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So.
Rebecca, I will say too, from our event, our festival we're doing in September, normally the 2019, we had 50,000 people. And so we know that we won't have the crowd size just by nature of people's comfort level coming back this year. Again, we will have things that are competition. Football is big here, college football, there are games scheduled that day. Sports will be back in session, high school sports, things like that. So by nature, we know that will lessen our crowd size. But because it is based on city streets and in our downtown area, we are not able to restrict how many people come because it is a street festival. You have to let it open to everyone. Right now, our ticket sales that people had bought tickets in 2019 are still holding strong. People are not asking for refunds yet, which shows us that we think people are going to come back still. We may have 35,000. Am I nervous or hesitant about it? Not so much in the fact that we've already got on hold, all the hand washing, the sanitizers, the extra water stations, things like that. And we'll just ask people to be smart and, be distant, but also hopefully come fall, if the vaccination rate stays strong and what it is, I think we're going to be in a good place.
It'll be
So,
fine.
We did
if that helps
also
answer.
our mask mandate got lifted for outside for events under 1,000 that are outdoors. And we're hoping by the time August comes that number cap will lift. If not, we may try to stagger parking and try to say, well, we're expecting 900 an hour, that sort of thing. But we'll still encourage people to wear masks if they're coming inside somebody's booth and, that sort of thing.
Just to make
But
everybody.
hopefully it won't be required. Yeah.
Has anybody started having smaller events that we all used to have before, of either breakfast or luncheons or happy hours? And are you doing them inside, outside, or both, or thinking about it?
We are going to be doing our first in-person networking event in June, but our local chamber has been doing nature networking events. So it's outside at our zoo. They did one at the zoo. We have a river walk. That's where it's going to be tomorrow. We have another river walk that's more like woodsy that they did it in. So they've been good about having outdoor places and getting people together to do that. And still having to wear masks here outside with groups.
Right. But still trying to cater to people's comfort level a little bit.
Right.
Kathleen, I think you were gonna.
Yeah, we've had a similar experience. We've been online this whole time, and we're still committed to being online through the end of the second quarter. So I think we do a monthly coffee hour. So this coffee hour and the next one will for sure be virtual. And then as far as moving forward, we're hoping to pick up on that similar theme of being outside. We've got a robust park system around us, and we have members spread out regionally. So we've been doing a lot more with main streets in our neighborhoods. So we're really trying to capitalize on that and going to neighborhood parks and bringing out a different subsection of our members to come and connect in that space, if it's close to them, that kind of thing, and bringing all the coffee and all of those things with us so that it's a good and fun time. And we've had giveaways and all sorts of things to incentivize that. But I know, Jennifer, I see that you're online. You said
you're got comfortable being online.
Yeah, we've been, I don't know if it's just so much Zoom fatigue or what it is, but our online events, as we've continued them on, we're just seeing smaller and smaller numbers. And so people really have a drive to be back in person, like we were saying, and we're hopeful that if we can be back in person. Usually our coffee hour events don't really draw more than 50 of our members out on a given Friday morning. So we're hoping that we could have, just see our numbers increase for those if we're coming back in person. People just really want it. So we'll see. But our online, they've been dwindling, especially once we hit that post-year mark. But I agree, Jennifer, if we could keep our program committees and things like that online, that would be efficient.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, I think where we're running into difficulty as well is, events are a big part of our budget, but so are memberships, and just kind of planning our budget for this year too. And also, when I planned our 2021 budget, I looked back at I was like, why did I estimate so low on salary? And I'm like, well, it was because I was making this budget at the end of October, and vaccines were not approved yet. And there was just, and I was just feeling very very pessimistic about 2021, and my outlook has changed a lot about 2021. And so I think it's been, I mean, I can say that from a planning perspective, it's just hard to plan during a pandemic. It's also hard to plan when, you know, your daughter's MTI pod, you know, mom has to go out of town. So now I have my daughter today and tomorrow. You know, there's always something.
Not like any of us have experience in planning for a pandemic. We do
That's right.
now, but before we didn't. And
Yes, yes.
while as awful as it's been, I really believe that on the learning curve, there are some valuable things that we'll take from this and continue doing. You know, I think there's a comfort with online meetings that there really wasn't so much before.
Yes.
And certainly safe driving all over town and that travel time. But you know, I think there are some good things to come out of it, and just in terms of ways of doing it. Hopefully we can take the best and leave behind the worst and move forward. So it also sounds like the having events outdoors is a nice transition period to full indoor all the time events.
Perfect timing.
Kind of a,
as the weather gets good.
Yeah, just get outside a little and enjoy it. Except in here in Austin, allergy season is here in full bloom. So, but that's everywhere.
Also, I had too, as Rachel said, you know, kind of the transition in programming. You know, we did so much more hands-on stuff. Just a lot more information for our members. You know, I used to, our programming, or like what I sent out information about was just LIBA things, you know, just our organization things. And then as, you know, our whole city really banded together. I was talking to our Chamber of Commerce, you know, like we were very close all of a sudden, and, you know, some different things, some different partners that we knew about, but we didn't work closely with. You know, and just doing a daily newsletter of what new developments had happened that day, and, you know, that sort of thing. But that's something that I hope to continue, and have just kind of gone back to. I took a break for a while because I was just frankly sick of doing it, you know, every day, you know, all the different, here's what's going on today. And by the way, the application changed, so you got to reapply if you already did, all that stuff. But getting back to that digest and kind of sharing partner, you know, information, and just trying to also keep our businesses aware of the other small business resource providers, because, you know, we are more about the Buy Local campaign and about, you know, just educating people about why Buy Local is important. And we do act as a chamber with networking, things like that. But there are also all these, you know, the small business development and center and that offer free classes that so many of our members just really don't even know about. And I was surprised by that too. At the beginning of the pandemic, some of the agencies that people really hadn't heard about, I thought they would know. I think because I knew about it, and I was forgetting that just because I work with those folks doesn't mean our members know what's available.
That brings up an interesting question that I'd love to hear from some other people. Did you build alliances with other organizations in your community to combat the pandemic that you hope will stay in place as you move forward?
I know we certainly have. For a number of years, we've worked with, here in West Michigan, we have several organizations like the ones that you're describing too, Jennifer. We've got, here we have a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which is separate from our Grand Rapids area Chamber of Commerce. We have the Grand Rapids area Black-owned businesses who exist here too, and a number of folks similar to that, some who provide specifically loan applications for businesses, you know, mentorship, all sorts of things that are just valuable for folks who are moving through particularly the applications this year, but also generally creating business plans, access to funding, things of that nature. And so we have worked with a bunch of those folks before. We worked very concretely in partnership with them through the application process. And I think coming out of this end, we're certainly in that stage now too, where we're thinking about what does it look like for us to have a natural pipeline between our organizations? So if we have a member who wants to build out a new business plan post the pandemic, like how can we share that resource with them well and really provide some programming that benefits both of our organizations? We found here, even though we had some partnership existing before the pandemic, we've worked hand in hand. There is still natural siloing of some of these economic support organizations in our area. And so we want to figure out how to build a robust pipeline, something that's going to be mutually beneficial for all of our organizations. So if folks have experience doing that, ideas on how they've done that well. We do often get those questions about like how our buy local is different than the chamber, and the benefit of joining either one or both, all those kind of questions. So would love folks' thoughts around that. But we were just now getting to the point where we're post-pandemic enough to start to think about that we have brain space now for that new conversation.
Sure.
Right.
I will say, Kathleen, too, that in Louisville, we had these small business resource partners. We used to just call them the SBRPs, and we would refer to them in meetings, but we weren't really getting together on the regular. And finally, the city did start a program of at least quarterly that we all just get together. And really all we do is give updates of what's going on with our organization. But there's usually some connections made and different things like that. And I think there's a lot of potential moving forward. That was a good first step. And then thankfully that was in place too before the pandemic started, because it was an introduction for me even to some places that I just did not realize existed. So I think that's also a good way to.
The other sort of side effect of that I think is really helpful is in mentioning how do you differentiate your IVA from a local chamber or another group when people ask, what's the difference? Should I join both? What do I do? Understanding and working with other organizations in your community gives you a great picture of what they do and an opening of opportunity to go do something different. So, I know when I ran AIBA here in Austin, I had a general rule: don't duplicate ever. And so it's a great thing because you are in a position to freely promote what the other organizations do because you don't do those things. But then it's very obvious the things that you do that they don't, and just, set yourself apart that way.
Yeah, I know here we do have, we have an ESO, an economic support organization meeting that happens, quarterly among our different support systems. And we've had trouble getting out of that stage where it's just updates, moving on to that kind of tangible work plan, but also funding those work plans so we can start creating projects, but if no one's receiving grant funding to see them through, or so that's always kind of a hang up for us as we think about how to tangibly bring some of our updates into active fruition or work plans. And then through the pandemic, we had our city actually hired someone to convene our groups together to do a more kind of revitalization lens of that group. So it's like a subsect of those groups based on different conversations. So there's an economic arm of it, a marketing arm of it, and a few others that exist. So we've been banding together in that same way, and it's been very helpful for getting through the applications, creating joint marketing initiatives to talk about buying local, the emphasis of that, supporting folks in our community through this time. But a similar thing, now that we're at this year mark too, we've been having conversations about, now that we've gotten through the marketing campaigns, the applications, things like that, what does funding look like to continue this work, rather than, volunteer capacity for being on some of these committees. So still great to be a part of, but just, kind of the evolution of a natural convening with those kind of members. So
there's just that pesky money thing.
Yeah.
It's in our way all the time of great ideas becoming reality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're about 6 minutes out from the end here. I thought, I don't know if we want to go around and if anybody, I don't know that we have to have closing thoughts now, but I wanted to alert folks to that fact and any burning questions or anything that folks have. I know that one thing I wanted to mention is that we've been gracing members through the pandemic. If they can't pay, then we say that's fine, but they do have to be in communication with us. We're just not gracing everybody. So they have to take us up on it and say, yes, I do want to be a part of LEPA. And we have decided that we're probably going to end this program at the end of October. That will be, and so for people who were gracing now, we're just making that their expiration date, and then we'll start the renewal process again. There could be some exceptions to that, certainly. Like we never just not let people, we would still review that list, but it's been interesting for us just trying to get our renewal rates because, people paid, some people didn't. Are they just being graced right now? So I know that my membership engagement person is going to be really excited when it can just be the way it is, just show me they paid. But at the same time, it's also been really nice to be able to support those members too, when that was just, too much of an expense, and they still wanted to be part of the Buy Local movement. So we're doing our directory for the summer right now. We did not do one last year. And so this will be our last directory, probably mostly with Grace memberships, and we'll see where we are in the fall. So that's also going to be kind of a reckoning too, because we hope that a lot of people will be back on their feet and ready to resume paid memberships, but I don't know. So, but thankfully it's been a relatively small percentage. So,
but just the fact that so many IBAs pumped memberships during the pandemic and kept members, stayed involved, did everything they could to help, will speak well of them, and people see the value of it and start paying when they can. Is anybody thinking about doing a sliding scale payment, or still just looking at it's, here's the renewal rate, talk to us if you really can't?
We've had a few years ago changed our membership to members dues based on the number of employees. So it's not all the same for every business, which is helpful, I think, to many businesses. We also have a community supporter rate, and now we've had tiers of those because, as you know, not everybody suffered through the pandemic in the same way. And there were plenty of people with extra money who actually really wanted to support local businesses. And so we've been looking at ways to link the people who can give like $500 instead of $25 to providing scholarships, or funding the business membership of those businesses who cannot at some for this year pay. And so that there's a link. So that if you're new, or if you have lapsed in your membership but you still want to participate, there's someone who can fund you. And then it lets them know, well, yeah, you're supposed to be paying dues. We hope you're going to pay dues again. But meanwhile, there are these generous people who want you to continue. So it's not exactly official, but it's kind of moving in that direction. And the idea of having different levels of community membership has been really amazing. I mean, there are people who want to give more than $25. So why just ask them for that? Let them give 100, let them give 500.
Of course, but what a great example of our community supporting each other.
Yeah. Oh, it's been very encouraging. Yeah.
And by never using the F word, as we call it, the free.
Nothing's free.
By saying this, that you can apply for a grant for your membership, and then that grant, you go under a little review, and then here's a grant, so that the value of the membership is held in check. Like, yes, the membership is still whatever it is, $100, but someone else is paying that for you. So it's a good example. Thanks for sharing that.
The other thing that you really should keep in mind is that we've got, you probably already know all this, but banks in Massachusetts anyway, there's a Community Preservation Act where banks have to set aside a certain amount of money for communities.
Right.
Banks have been generous. The locally owned and banks are very generous with us because they have to be giving their money to some community effort, and they see a business organization such as ours as a very good target for that money, because locally owned businesses may very well want to do some borrowing with locally owned banks. So they've been some big givers, and they're actually surprisingly more in the Cambridge market. Maybe that's just because we're so fabulously rich, but I thought there would be less. There were fewer. There were 3 what we now call legacy banks, but there are 4 or 5 other banks who've moved into the Cambridge market who have started now, who could also be asking for sponsorships. And that's a good source of revenue, because they know if we're working on business development and community engagement with local businesses, that's all good for them. They get it.
Absolutely. Future customers.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Making more notes.
I have to get going.
Sorry about that. Doorbell rang. So, well, let's wrap up. Is there anything else we want to wrap up with? I'm thinking it's great to hear a lot of similar things and things moving forward that we haven't done yet and all that good stuff.
So awesome, everybody. It's just good to connect. One of the big benefits of Amoeba to me is to meet your peers and connect with everyone. So
Yes,
appreciate everybody being on the call.
Take care. Bye.
absolutely.
Thanks,
All
Rebecca.
right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.